Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 2038 PSHL Trade Deadline Show. It's the first time we're trying to attempt to do a trade deadline show. It's been a different year this season, of course, with the addition of the website, trying to get more exposure to the league out there and everything. We have a full league now of 34 GMs, so I want to try and make this as exciting for everybody as possible. I know that coming into this last week before the deadline, there's been a lot of rumors, a lot of names being thrown out there. A lot of teams kind of in the middle this year. A lot of teams trying to look to battle for a Schaefer Cup, and there's several teams also looking towards the future, looking towards building those assets towards next season and trying to focus on the future ahead of this season in the PSHL. So I want to try and do a live stream, kind of break down some of the rumors I'm hearing, some of the trades that have happened the last couple days. Also try to get a live stream going too, so everyone can see how things kind of work. Now that there's nothing really hidden from commissioner mode anymore. We used to have ratings that are only seen through your eyes and your staff's eyes, but now that the website is in play, it's got all the commissioner viewed ratings on there. So all that stuff is readily available now. So we could go ahead and just run the streams more often. Nothing really to hide from you guys anymore. So um, that's kind of the idea. I know a couple seasons back we did a free agent frenzy show, and that went over really well. So I want to try and get this thing going again. Again, my normal apologies ahead of time. I'm not the best speaker. It's good practice for me, for my work and everything. I have to do online meetings and stuff as a supervisor and everything like that. But I had a lot of experience doing streaming and all that stuff, and makes these a little bit more difficult because we're working with a lot of fake player names here that I really don't know how to pronounce. So I'm going to do my best as far as explaining things as they come through to me, and again, trying to do my best as far as pronouncing these people's names that we have in the game now. So bear with me on those. If I mispronounce a name, just apologies in advance for that. So I'm going to go through some of the things that have happened so far today. Today has been an active day. It was a slow start this morning when I got on. There wasn't any trades coming through yet, but there was a lot of discussion going on, a lot of trade blocks being posted, some rumors being sent my way to announce on the stream. We're going to kind of just play it as a 2 p.m. Eastern deadline. We're just going to try and set it at that. So try to get all your trades done within the next hour. Like I said, I don't want to just be rambling on here if nothing's happening and everything. I'll try and slow sim a day here and there. So just kind of keep things moving a little bit as things come through. But if you guys have something you're working on, you go ahead and send it my way. Anything that you want announced on the stream, again, you can send it my way as well. Let me try and see if I get my chat window open here. Okay, so yeah, if you guys want to post something in the Twitch chat, you can. Or you can just send it to me via PM in Discord, and I will announce the rumor or whatever you guys are working on. So I have this coach up here. Florida just hired this assistant coach for the AP used to get the staff in there. So I just processed that. There's a couple waiver claims that I processed that I'm not 100% sure if they're going to come through on this sim or not. So we'll see if that happens. Let's go through some of the trades that have already happened today, and I can't process them in game yet because it's got to be after the sim, but I'm going to kind of bring up the screen just to make sure that there's no trade clauses in place, all the picks are right, all the players are right, just make sure that I can process it when I'm ready before I approve on the website. So far today there's been let's see, I think there's just another recent trade approved, and there was. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 deals so far. Let's see, the first one of the day came in early on this morning involving the Quebec Nordiques. So let's go through. I've already imported people's exports, by the way, so we're already ready to sim once I feel the need to advance a day here. The Quebec Nordiques involved in a trade. Nordiques, one of those teams on the outside looking in, 7 games under 500, looking to build towards the future. I know that they got some big names on the trade block. I hear rumors. Ed Combs, I know that I've inquired about reacquiring Ed Combs, the former Sabre. The price is probably out of my league right now, but I know that there's at least one other playoff-bound team close to making a deal for Ed Combs. You get that physical play. He's really developed nicely since I had him too. I don't even remember what I moved him for. Let's see if we could pull up. He's got some really nice development rings. I mean, you're going to take the PIMs. That's just one of the things that it could be a value come playoff time. You know, you get that edgy guy, that physical player who could also shut down opponents, and he's not bad offensively as well. He's got 31 points this season, basically half a point a game to go along with those 286 penalty minutes. So he's going to bring that physical edge, but he's also not just a third pair guy. This guy could play anywhere in your top 6 defense for the playoffs. So really a valuable player. We're going to check out. I just want to kind of view who I moved him for, if it's in the history here. I'm not even sure if I moved him. He was drafted in the expansion draft by Quebec. I know that. Oh, it was right here. So Sabres, Radek Nosek deal was I moved Ed Combs to the Jets in the deal for Nosek. And got a pretty good return. I mean, according to this blog here, Nosek, Yelich, and 2 third-round picks went for Ed Combs. So that's a pretty good return that I got. He also later moved for, who's that, Alexis Patterson? Yes. Another guy who is in the rumors today. Actually, it might have been yesterday. I think Alexis Patterson was traded already. Yes, he was. He's traded from Winnipeg to Florida yesterday. So, just interesting names out there I'm hearing. So, rumors I've been sent my way. I know I said I was going to go through the trades first, but let's go again set these rumors out there first. So it'll kind of give people a chance to discuss on the side here while they're watching the stream. Prince George is an active team right now, so they've already made a couple trades today. They're a team that, if you look at the standings, they're right there on the cusp of the playoffs. 77 points. So right now, they're basically the 8th seed right now. 12 games above 500 though. So that difficult Pacific and Western Conference. 77 points right now in the East would have you a little bit. Well, actually, kind of still have you on the bubble. But anyways, Prince George is looking to make the run here in the Schaefer Cup playoffs. So I've been told by the Prince George reporters that they are actively engaged with multiple teams to get a number 1 or number 2 center. So Prince George wants to improve their depth up the middle. Paul Billiard is one of the names being thrown around. There's strong interest going on for Billiard, most notably from a Metropolitan team. So you kind of look at the teams that are there. I mean, you have the Devils, who are, as I will show you in a few minutes, are very active. So they may be one of the teams in on Billiard. Rangers are there. Maybe one of their best chances to compete for a Schaefer Cup this season, leading the Metropolitan Division. I know the Rangers are rumored in on some big-name defensemen, but maybe they're one of the teams looking at Paul Billiard. So if we go to Prince George, let's throw up Paul Billiard. Let's see. So you have a guy who's relatively young at 22. Billiard was a former first-round pick, 27th overall by Prince George. So obviously name, two-way player that's going to be valued come playoff time. A young player that you're not just renting. You're going to have this guy for several years to come. Billiard is RFA as of this season, so he'll be looking to get an extension also. So he's one of the names being thrown around. There's also a lot of inquiries going through Prince George right now for last year's number 1 overall pick, Michael Cadwallader. Very valuable player, a defenseman going first overall with his kind of abilities. Right now he's on the injured list, if I remember correctly. Still got 2 to 3 weeks left, but he's a franchise type player. He's not someone that someone's just going to be getting for a playoff run here. He's got 31 points in 46 games as a rookie, as an 18-year-old. Well, he's 19 now, but basically a first-year player coming out of the draft. Still a ton of room left. He's going to project as being a huge two-way defenseman. He can skate. He's 6'5", 230 almost. He's going to bring that two-way game. He's got great leadership abilities. This guy is a franchise player that if someone could pull out of Prince George, obviously, like I said, first overall pick last season. Wasn't the deepest draft, but so he might not have been first overall in some other drafts, but still. quality player to build your team around. So that's going to be one of those people that if they want that number one big defenseman, if they could pull him out of Prince George, that would be something big. Some other names being tossed around Prince George is Kim Schoenhauser, Dmitry Makhaganov, and Steve Zgragin are also rumored to be guys that are either in the mix to move or being offered up to get that number one, number two center that they're coveted in Prince George. And Cadwallader, maybe he'd be one of those guys to help pry a number one centerman away from one of those teams. So interesting to see the going on in Prince George today. Like I said, there has been deals made. We'll go through Prince George. It's in on at least two players, and maybe they already filled that need for the number one, number two center with one of these deals. We'll have to see. Other rumors I'm getting, New Jersey, another active team today. I'm seeing at least 4 trades already today by the New Jersey Devils. Another one of those teams on the cusp with a chance to win a Schaefer Cup this year. It doesn't seem like any team is out to try and dominate this season. Everyone's kind of got an open window here to try and win this thing. We saw it last season in Calgary. Kind of a team out from nowhere. Went on an incredible run in the Schaefer Cup playoffs. I think they went 16-1 last season, if I remember correctly, on their way to a Schaefer Cup. So anybody could do it. I'd like to see one of those teams really step forward and just go balls out to try and win themselves a cup. But it just seems like, I know we just got a great group of GMs here that always look towards the future. They're not looking to give up all their future assets for one stab at a cup. But for trade deadline day, it's nice to see those teams, taking a step to give up some of those future assets to try and win themselves a cup. Because not every day. You got 16 teams trying to win themselves a cup once you get in the playoffs, and you want to give yourself the best chance as possible to try and win. It's not every day. As my Sabres have shown, I'm having a difficult time building my team back up to where they're even a playoff team again. So that's some going on in New Jersey. Like I said, they're also in for top 6 winger rental, and they're always looking to upgrade defense. So again, we'll see if one of those 4 trades that are already hit the wire fill the needs that the Devils are talking for a top 6 winger or depth defense. There's some rumors out of Montreal. We heard from a reporter earlier this morning. Montreal has announced they're staying pat, that their plans is to just go with what they got. They were in the market the last couple of weeks to try and get a top 6 right wing. The rumor was that they would like to convert Matt Ivanov back to a defenseman. Ivanov's played the last couple seasons as a winger. He's went playing defense. He's arguably one of the best defensemen in the league. Hall of Famer defenseman. I personally think he's not being used where he should be. I think that when you have a dominant, best in the league defenseman, you got to play that guy on defense. But he's also on the verge of 90 plus points again this season. So it's one of those catch-22s. You want to have value where it's possible. You have a guy that could be the best at his given position, but you also, if he does a good job at forward too, you just got to decide what's best for your team. I had players in the past where I tried to convert from forward to defense because I had a need at defense. Didn't really work out so well. I think it was Peter Lindqvist that I tried that with. He's gone on to greener pastures since then. So it's not a lot. It doesn't happen a lot. I think maybe Kevin Harju even played a little bit of forward too last season. So just something that people try out every now and then, switching positions. But I think when you have an elite player that is the best at that position, you got to keep him at that position. That's the way I think. And you guys are welcome to do what you want to do. But that being said, Montreal has announced that they're planning on staying put. There's rumors out of Calgary that Vacation Scott may be going on another trip this year. So it's interesting because there was rumors that his vacations were done for the year. And now there's rumors that maybe another vacation is on the horizon. So that is something to keep in mind going forward. Is Vacation Scott going to take another vacation? That's big rumors right now out of Calgary. So we'll have to see how that goes. Again, he's here every other week, so we're kind of used to it by now. But we'll see. We'll see how Vacation Scott does as far as getting that going later in the year. All right, so let's go through some of these trades here. As I announced, Quebec Nordiques had made a trade earlier this morning. They kicked things off early this morning. Looks like about 9:30. I think this is Eastern time. That's shown on the site. So we'll go to the Quebec Nordiques. Nordiques made a trade with the Prince George Saw Blades. So let's find where I was at. Moving from Prince George to Quebec, Nicholas Birkland. So we will look up if I get this to sort. I'm on the wrong team here. Okay, so 20-year-old defenseman with pretty good potential, Nicholas Birkland. Moving as well as Matt Boothman. To the Quebec Nordiques in exchange for Yuri Krupala. So this is a big name going to Prince George. And a big contract. Got that $10.5 million cap hit for the next 5 years, but this is definitely going to fill their need for the number 1, number 2 centerman guy. Krupala moving from Nicholas Birkland and Matt Boothman. There is 50% also retained on this deal. So, whoops. Just want to make sure that they're able to retain the 50%, and they are. So it'd be Krupala going from Quebec to Prince George for Nicholas Birkland and Matt Boothman, 2 young players. Birkland, as we said, pretty good potential. Pretty good defensive defenseman, looks like, who's again got some good skating ability. Birkland was a second round pick, 47th overall by Prince George. So Birkland and Boothman moving to Quebec in exchange for Yuri Krupala at 50% retained. That deal will be approved. Next deal that happened this morning involved my Buffalo Sabres. So the Sabres making kind of a controversial move here with the New Jersey Devils. So the Devils, who I said, active this morning with 4 trades. They acquire Bo Rasmussen in exchange for a 2038 second round pick, Washington's second round pick. And that's good. So the New Jersey Devils acquire goaltender Bo Rasmussen from the Buffalo Sabres for a 2038 second round pick. What that does here in Buffalo opens up a spot. Now they're going to call up Jared Lauzon to finish out the season. And this may open up a door for one of their top goaltending prospects, Simon Westland, for next season. Now, obviously, the Westland at 19 years old is not ready to be a backup in this league. But obviously, they're looking towards the future with Alane and Westland being the 1-2 punch in Buffalo. Next trade is again involving the New Jersey Devils. So the Devils, a trade with the Florida Panthers. Again, all these are being approved through the website, but obviously cap situations may come into play when I actually go to process these trades. So at any point, if this knocks someone out of the cap where they cannot fit this player in, those trades would then be reversed through the website. So this trade with Florida, the New Jersey Devils will acquire Ulrich Pedersen. Pedersen, another one of those guys who's a top 6 player. He's on an expiring deal, looks like, so it'd be a UFA rental, it looks like. $7 million. Pedersen was former 18th overall pick by Prince George. So Ulrich Pedersen, in exchange, the Devils will give up, and I'm not even going to try to pronounce this guy's name. What is this? Voroliak? Ryan Voroliak? A prospect goaltender and the 2038 Colorado 4th round pick. So purely a rental coming out from Florida. I believe is not in a playoff race right now. This will be the Colorado 4th round pick going in exchange for this. So Florida sends Ulrich Pedersen to the Devils for Ryan Voroliak and a 4th round pick Florida, yeah, they're at the bottom of the Atlantic Division, so they're clearly looking towards the next season as well. So third trade is approved. Fourth trade of the day, again involving those New Jersey Devils. Definitely the most active team here at the deadline so far. This is with the Arizona Coyotes, who are currently have the worst record in the league, if I'm not mistaken. The Arizona Coyotes trade Keith Hathorn. I'm on the wrong team again here. Hathorn, an expiring defenseman there, 5.3 million cap hit. In exchange for another name that I'm going to have a hard time pronouncing here. Alexei Kalyavin. So again, purely rental. Kalyavin, recently a fourth round pick by the Devils. Gives them some forward depth for the Arizona Coyotes for a player who is expiring in Keith Hathorn. So that trade is approved. Devils back at it again. This time with the Florida Panthers again. So the Devils again raiding that non-playoff team in Florida. Devils this time acquire Finn Württemberg. Again, it would help if I sort this thing or go on the right team. Finn Württemberg right here, a young forward. So Devils trying to add some young depth. They gave up some assets here, trying to add a young piece. Württemberg, a former second-round pick by Florida, has developed quite nicely. Again, that speed right there, 19 speed. It's going to be a player that should definitely get some ice time in New Jersey. He's being traded to Florida to New Jersey for Jan Herbacek. Let's see here. Jan Herbacek right here, 21-year-old defenseman. Herbacek, a playmaking defenseman, obviously good skating ability. He's playing in New Jersey right now as a 21-year-old defenseman, 24 points. Herbacek was also a former second-round pick by the Devils. So basically former second-round pick for former second-round pick, forward for defenseman. Jan Herbacek gets traded from New Jersey to Florida for Finn Württemberg. So that will be approved. Next we have Prince George on the trade the trade scope again, I guess. Prince George on the move this time, a couple picks. Prince George is moving their 6th round pick in 2038 and their 4th round pick in 2039. 2 picks they do currently own, to the Arizona Coyotes, one of those teams looking towards building assets for next year. Theo Rochette is the player moving from Arizona to Prince George. Rochette again, give them some depth up the middle, a 36-year-old on the last year of his expiring deal. So again, clearly a rental. Rochette has had a long career here in the PSHL. Rochette currently with on the verge of scoring his 300th goal in the PSHL. He also has 850 career points. So giving them some depth if they make the playoffs. Prince George acquires Theo Rochette from the Arizona Coyotes for a 2038 6th round pick and a 2039 4th round pick. So that deal is approved. Last trade so far that I see on the trade sheet will be involving my Buffalo Sabres. Sabres doing a little bit of help to open up some cap space for some other teams here, taking on some bad contracts. The Sabres acquire from Ottawa, let's see here, Curtis Geisbrecht. yet. Geisbrecht has an additional year left on his $8 million salary. Geisbrecht was waived earlier in the season because of cap issues. Ottawa had a couple injuries take place. Then they were able to fit Geisbrecht into the lineup. Ottawa is one of those teams that's on the verge of potential greatness here this season. So they're 16 games above 500. Looking at making a run. I don't know if this is just opening cap space to try and make another move that hasn't happened yet. But Ottawa has traded Geisbrecht to my Buffalo Sabres along with a 2038 third round pick and a 2039 fifth round pick. Buffalo giving up nothing to take on the contract of Curtis Geisbrecht. So that deal is approved. So as of right now, we've caught up on all the trade happenings. Let's just go over the trade blocks that have been. Yeah, I see in the chat some people are mentioning Zatko going to the Devils. Zatko is not being moved anytime soon. Milan Zatko is going to be someone the Buffalo Sabres build around for the near future, unless, for some reason, the Buffalo Sabres are able to get a franchise center with one of those first-round picks they have. Buffalo currently with 4 first-round picks. 2 of those looking to be lottery picks. And now as we talk about the draft a little bit, I just want to update everybody where we're at on that. Again, we got kind of a lull here while you guys talk trade. I'm finished with the next 2 draft classes, so I'm ahead of schedule as far as the draft classes go. They're easily viewable in game, at least the 2038 draft is. If you want to talk about strength, this is not the greatest draft. I call it an average type draft. Some decent players at the top. Good. Well, let's say good players. They're not great players at the draft. So we got Evan Lamosa. I know is one of the biggest talked about names. Now he's not a Colton Reed. He's not going to be one of those franchise type players. Could he be a top line player? Yes. But as far as franchise players goes, this draft is weaker as far as that kind of talent goes. It's not even the most deepest draft in the world. So the 2038 draft is just one of those ones. It's bad timing for a rebuilding team like me to be going into a draft that's not as solid as we've seen in the past. But it is what it is. I mean, I just need to get some young assets back in my organization. Obviously, the better, that help my team out. I just want to hopefully strike gold with one of my picks. But at the same time, you just never can count on that. So I also said I was finished with the 2039 draft. That is also completed. And I would also classify it as average to below average. It's going to not be a strong draft year in 2039. Again, we're going to have those top few players, as any NHL draft would be. Anybody at the top, you're going to get some good top 6 players drafting that high up in the draft. But as far as depth goes, you're looking at probably a lot of 2-star players going, even starting in like the 3rd round. So it's not going to be the deepest draft in the world. Obviously, things could change by 2039. Players could develop differently. But as of right now, the goal was to make it an average to below average type draft class. Now we get to 2040. I'm not going to start actually editing the players yet until next season, but I am already starting to write down the names of the people that I have to go in and edit. The plan for the 2040 draft is that it's going to be a very good draft and a very deep draft. So plan ahead on the 2040 draft. It's not going to have any Colton Reeds on. We're not going generational player for a while now. Colton Reed is going to dominate this league for a while. It seems like as soon as Connor McDavid left, Colton Reed came in, and as a 19-year-old, he's dominating the league. So nothing like that's going to happen. But I'm planning on maybe not a top-heavy draft, but a deeper draft. 2040 would be one that if you stockpile picks for 2040, you're going to be able to rebuild your organization pretty quickly. So again, we're not talking 4-star guys in the 3rd round, but we're talking a good deal of 2.5 to 3-star guys going later in the draft. So again, things could change when I get in there and start messing around with players. A lot of times I rate players based on where they were drafted in the CHL. If they're drafted first overall in the CHL, I want that to be a good prospect for our draft as well. If they're playing in a weaker league, some league that doesn't have a logo in game, we don't even know where the league is, I'm not going to rate that player as well. So it just depends on what type of players are in that draft. But my plan is to make that a deeper draft. And the reason why that's going to be the deeper draft is because the big announcement here, 2040 is looking like that is going to be the next expansion year. So that is something that's been on my radar for at least the last season, when to best implement the next bit of expansion. So we were able to not only fill up the league, but now we have the web portal set, working very well for everybody. It's time to take the next step as far as developing this league. Um, we're going to have, again, teams are getting deep again. We're still getting 3-star guys playing bottom 6 roles. We want to try and limit the amount of depth teams have. We want to make more value in 2-star players. We have one of those 1.5-star players doing quite well for the Sharks right now. So I mean, they are using that depth to their advantage. But 2040 again, it's a nice round number. It's just time that people. I always want to give a couple seasons advance notice so people can start planning their contracts and who they're going to be losing or keeping exposed in the expansion draft. So keep that on your radar. 2040. As long as I could get the website to work properly, because it's going to have to be something where, as opposed to the spreadsheets last time, we got to have the website be able to submit the protection lists. If I'm able to implement that, 2040 will be the plan to expand 2 more teams, and to get us to where we have an even amount of teams. We'll have 2 conferences of 18 teams at that point, 36 teams total, and then we'll have an option to either have 2 or 4 9-team divisions, or we could even split it up into 6 divisions and go, what? I don't know, my math's kind of off right now. 6 teams each? Yeah, 6 teams each in 6 divisions. So we'll have each conference will have 3 divisions. Again, that's just something that's going to be tossed around, but it gives us at least the option to have equal divisions in each league, or in each conference. So that's something to keep on the radar. Let's look at the trade block. It looks like some more blocks have been posted since I last checked. Looking at the trade block, looks like James has already put his 2040 first-round pick as being available. He's using this announcement of the deep draft and the expectation that he's going to be drafting low in that draft to maybe get some assets for that 2040 pick. So it looks like the Sharks are already shopping that 2040 draft pick. Coyotes have announced they're around. They are open for business. Again, trying to get some of those rental players gone. The Arizona Coyotes are in the midst of a huge overhaul. This team, again, when Liam took this team over, was playing quite well. But again, a lot of bad contracts. It just put this team into a tough situation. A lot of those contracts are now expiring. So Arizona, who, like I said, their last place, they would have the best chances for the first overall pick this year, but that pick was moved. It's just something that they're going to have to, it's going to be a long rebuild there. So they'll have their first round pick next year. And it looks like it'll be another high pick. So they'll be transitioning. They're looking to try and get rid of some of those players that are on expiring deals. So let's just take a quick look at the Arizona Coyotes. We talked about it, 18 of 43 records, so they're by far the worst team in the PSHL right now. You look at those goaltenders. They have 2 solid 1A, 1B guys in goal, and still young players. So Filipek, 4-star already with 5-star potential. 22 years old, so he needs to get some playing time. He may be the goaltender of the future. Tikla is already a 5-star guy. Still has another year left on his deal. He would be a good asset to move out of Arizona, but it seems like the goaltender market has slowed down quite a bit. Seems like a lot of teams are not willing to go all out on a goaltender. I'm still pro goaltender, obviously. People have mentioned I've tried to do my best in drafting goaltenders of the futures. I still think there's huge value in having a good goaltender that gives you a chance to win every night. But a lot of teams don't. They think they can win with subpar goaltending. So we've seen a I think Ottawa last season had a big year with a average goaltender. The Sharks this year have turned it on and have a goaltender leading the league in wins that maybe normally wouldn't necessarily be up there. So uh, teams have proven they don't need goaltending to win, but I'm still a huge fan of having a strong goaltender in between the pipes. So you look at some of these other expiring deals. Rochette again has already moved. He's one of those ones that sticks out with the $7 million cap hit. 1 year left, so he's expiring. Cole Perfetti at 36 years old. Only a 2-star. He's not going to be anybody that's moved unless it's just a cap dump, and Arizona again has to give up assets to move him. I think that this guy is going to be a buyout candidate in the offseason. No reason to keep this Cole Perfetti, who's had a great PSHL career. He's just no longer an asset. He's taking up ice time from younger players. He should be bought out. I would wait till his contract has 1 year left, so you're not, you're only paying him for 2 years as opposed to 4 years. But you can see Perfetti bought out in the offseason. Again, when you look at value, obviously the player they want to build around is Silas Everett, first overall pick a couple seasons ago. Huge talent, this guy. So he's going to be an Arizona Coyote for a long time to come. He's going to have a great career there. He's one of he's the cornerstone of this franchise. So when you look to building towards the future, this is the guy you want to build around. So when you look at the other ones, Gustafsson and his $4 million cap hit, again, he's 3.5-star, but he's 34. Not really a need to keep him around much longer. You need players to fill spots, but coming into next season at 35 years old, $4 million cap hit, I don't know what the future is for Gustafsson. You look at their prospect pool again. The Coyotes have moved a lot of picks over the last couple of years, mostly because of cap situations. They had to move players out. And in order to do that, to get teams to take those players, they had to give up picks in order to do that. So you look at the prospect pool, it's not the best in the league. Obviously, they have some players that have a chance at playing some pro hockey, but Silas Everett is the guy that you want to build this team around, and they have him in place. So that's number one priority coming in the offseason for Arizona. They have, like I said, assets to move, assets that will be helpful. Perfetti, if you can move him, again, you might have to get assets to move him, but he could be a valuable bottom six to a team. So Perfetti, maybe not the best skater in the world anymore, but he's going to bring that experience. You need that experience to produce in the playoffs. So you have that player, even if in a fourth line role, someone who's been there and done that, could be an asset for a team here at the deadline. Just taking a look again at the chat here. Was Silas a 5th overall pick? I don't know. I'm getting reports that I got that wrong. I thought he was first overall pick. Was he just first overall in juniors? Oh, so he's 4th overall. So I think I projected him as going first overall, and he ended up going 4th overall. So my bad. I misspoke on that. He was 4th overall pick. Still, a good player for Arizona to build. Obviously, he's got 20s all over the place. So if he wasn't the first overall pick, I don't remember who all was in that draft, but that might have even been the Colton Reed draft. I'm not sure. Let's see. James is going to pop on and see if I'm correct or not. Perigo went first, so yeah, that's kind of a surprise. So we got that Dean went second. Why Everett didn't go first in that draft, that's kind of beyond me looking at this. Not 100% sure why he didn't go first, but and we've seen it a couple times. We've seen it with the Wild pick. Recently, they had a player who I projected to go first overall. They ended up going 4th overall, and then obviously Silas Everett too. I penciled this guy in going first overall. He ended up going 4th. So steal there for Arizona. Again, that's the kind of things you like to see in the draft. You got the Colton Reeds, first overall picks that just, he was pegged as being the next Connor McDavid for several seasons. I hyped him up as being the next generational talent. Sharks tanked, did their best job to put their team into the toilet to get him. Luckily, they won the lottery, which really doesn't happen very often, so somehow they still got the rights to Colton Reed, and Colton Reed has not disappointed so far this season. He's just tearing it up as a 19-year-old. When you look at the stats, he's got a 26-point lead over the second best scorer in the league. So He's going to be dominating the league for a long time, and until it's going to be interesting to see what he wants in a contract after next season. I think he expires, and we'll need a new contract. So we'll see how that goes. I'm sure James is already planning that out with his finances. One of the things I wanted to do, I wanted to try to run the lottery for the cap situation for next year. I wanted to try and get it done in this show. I ran out of time. There was a parade that went through the front of my house, right outside my street, this weekend for Labor Day parade. So I was out there for it. Didn't have a lot of time to take care of that stuff. So that will be run when I do the draft lottery show. So we'll get some early feedback on what next year's cap is going to be. If it goes down or goes up, we'll have to see. But at least give you a little bit, well, not much time. It's only going to give you about a week's worth of in-game time to plan ahead as far as who you're going to re-sign and who you're going to let go, depending on where the cap goes. But it's something that maybe it'll help out a little bit to have it a few days earlier this year as opposed to last year right before free agency. So let's see, taking another look at the chat. Not a whole lot's going on as far as trade. Maybe you guys are just listening to me ramble on and stuff. Maybe that's entertaining to you. It's already close to being we've gotten about 40 minutes on this stream. Some reason the Kings are putting John Carveth out on the block. The Kings are right there in the push for the Pacific Division. 17 games above 500. Last I checked, Carveth was leading the team in scoring, and I think he had another year left on his deal. So why Los Angeles is trying to move Carveth? We'll have to see. He's 25 years old. Does have another year left after this. He's a 5-star player. Maybe they're just, again, trying to get assets for the future. Like I said, a lot of good GMs here. They want to win, but they also want to try and look towards the next couple seasons as well. John Carveth is one who has been placed on the block by the Kings. Again, for a guy 6'3", 230, he has tremendous speed. So, again, 5-star player. He's a legit number one center in this league. 20th overall pick. Actually, I don't even think he's a center. I mean, he's a playmaking guy. Could be a center, but with that face-off rating, I definitely would be playing him on the wings. So I'd put him more as a winger than a centerman. But the Kings may be looking towards the future moving Carveth. So Senators are still out. As I said, the Senators did the cap dump, trading Geisbrecht to my Sabres. Senators are now posting they're still looking for some depth at forward. So Senators, with their new GM Steve, he's looking to make a splash in this league. And again, Ottawa's right there on the cusp of the division right now. So they're actually dropped into fourth, but they're still with 80 points. They're still 16 games above 500. It's still a lock for the playoffs. If you look, the playoffs are pretty much locked in the Eastern Conference. 4 teams from each division are going, and they have a 10-point cushion. So really, the playoffs are pretty set already in the Eastern Conference. Western Conference, you look at it, they're pretty set. I mean, Prince George is the team that's in the 8th spot right now. Minnesota's within striking distance of them with the 5 points and a game at hand, but Minnesota's going to have to get to play in some good hockey to get themselves up into that playoff race. As opposed to that, other than Minnesota and Prince George battling for that 8th spot, Vegas would be in that conversation of maybe slipping out because they've played so many more games at 69. Wild have 5 games at hand on them. So Vegas could be a bubble team, but when you look at it, no one else is anywhere in the vicinity of those 8 teams. I mean, you drop off at Dallas 10 points, well, really 15 points back right now of the 8th seed. So, and Edmonton and Anaheim, those guys are not anywhere close to. They're closer to the first overall pick than making the playoffs. So, playoffs are pretty set in both conferences right now at the deadline, which really you would think would liven things up at the deadline. You'd think there'd be more trades going on with those non-playoff, since it's not really any borderline teams. It's clear cut who's making it and who's not making it. Normally it's the years that teams are still in the hunt for a playoff spot. They're not sure which way to go, but really it's clear the teams that are going to miss should be looking towards the future. But a lot of that stuff, maybe just the asking prices are too high right now still. We're coming up to about 10 minutes before my proposed deadline time. That's going to probably extend a little bit further because I haven't even simmed a day yet. I've just been rambling on for the last 45 minutes. So it's going a little bit quicker than I expected it to go. So maybe we'll stretch this thing out a little bit. Hopefully I'm not wasting your guys' days on a Saturday. Luckily, it's a holiday weekend for most people. I actually have a 5-day weekend this weekend, so I'm using it to rest and relax and do a lot of website updating here, adding some more pages to the web portal. So I've been working on the rules page, trying to get that posted because that's, we've had a lot of new GMs and some old GMs rejoin, and really a lot of rules have changed since those people have been in the league. So I got to get the rules updated, um, and that's something I want to get posted real quick. I want to also add the draft strengths we talked about. Next couple drafts being average to below average, and then a deep draft. I want to have a place on the website that actually projects maybe even the 2039 draft players. I already have the 2038 draft players posted on the website. I'd like to see if I could somehow get the 2039 page up and running as well, just to show the draft eligibles there, and to maybe have a note saying how the draft class strength is. So that's a couple things I'm working on. I still need to add the lines page to the team pages, the lines and the depth charts. I have pretty good ideas how I'm going to make those work. I just need to get the time to work on those. And at some point, I'm just going to try and clean up styling and stuff on the portal and start getting it ready to be mobile viewable. I mean, that's a huge process. That's basically a rewrite of the whole thing to try and get it restyled for mobile. But if I start changing some coding that I've learned along the way, I can at least get a head start on that. Again, even though I say it's not set up for the mobile, it doesn't mean it's not impossible to view on mobile. You just might have to scroll side to side, which is not ideal, but stuff is there. The links are kind of hard to find, so if you know the actual page name, you can just go to it because the menu doesn't really work right, but it's still there. It's not like it's impossible to see on the mobile devices. So I was looking again at the trade block posts. We talked about Kings trading, or at least looking to trade John Carveth. They're also looking for some depth up the middle. They're looking to maybe trade a third-round pick to get a bottom six center. So the Kings are looking to add some depth up the middle for the playoffs there. And then posting something else right now. Oh, I guess my speaking on Carveth has caused the Kings to withdraw his him being on the block. So Clayton, listen to me a little bit on John Carveth. I think you guys run your teams how you want. To me, all these teams in the playoffs should be looking to compete. No one is looking at the standings here. We got a couple teams with 92 and 93 points, but it's just, to me, it's just wide open. It's like any one of these 16 teams that are battling for the playoffs. Prince George is in the 8th seed, and I think they're one of the stronger rosters. So we look at these teams, I think it's wide open as far as the Schaefer Cup playoffs go. I think should be adding. I've said it multiple times in the chat. I think that teams, it's not every day you get to this position. You want to try and go all out and try and give yourself a chance to win, because again, you never know what next year is going to bring. You might not be back in the playoffs next year. Cap might go down. You might not be able to keep your roster in check next season, and this might be your one chance. So looks like the Kings may be just trying to add some depth pieces as of now. Oilers have announced they don't really have any rentals, but they have big players. So the Oilers, again, very disappointing. 11 games under 556 points. Their roster shows them they should be way better than that. You look at them, you have Johan Franzen available, one of the elite right wingers. Again, we talked about this in the past. He's maybe one of the most underrated players in the league. This guy, I think he was a 4th overall pick, if I remember correctly. Yes, 4th overall in 2024. He's 31 with a $12 million deal at 6 years, but I mean, you can have a player who's a 5-star player at $12 million in these days. It's not, $22 million. So he's about the same age as Alanin. He might even came from the same draft class as Alanin. Still tremendous skater for his age. At 31 years old, he's still got elite skating abilities. So, and he's also one of the best net front guys in the league as well. So, and he's produced. This guy had 93 points 3 seasons ago. He would be a great asset for a playoff team if they're willing to give up a first-round pick plus to get Franzen away from Edmonton. Again, that 6-year deal is something you're going to have to deal with long term, but when you can add a player like that, that instantly jumps you to the front of the line as far as Schaefer Cup odds go. Matt Savoy still has 3 years left on a $9 million deal, but he's a 4.5 star player. That gets you a top 6 centerman if you want to hit up Edmonton for him. He's on the block, and the big physical defenseman, Marshall, Jack Marshall. Sorry, I spaced on his first name there. Again, defense and physicality leading into the playoffs. He's got 11 mil cap hit, but only one more year left on it. This guy, again, 15 goals each of the last 2 seasons. If you're looking at being a playoff team and you want a defenseman, top 4, who's physical and can shut teams down, that's the kind of player that if you can fit in your cap space, you want to add Jack Marshall type players to your team. So he's one of the names being tossed around by Edmonton. You look at the Islanders. Islanders are, again, one of those teams in the middle. They're a team that went for it this season. Not working out so well for them. They're only 2 games above 500. They're looking to give up some depth players, look towards the future. They're looking at moving Alexei Maruzin, a defensive defenseman. He's got a good contract. Again, you're looking at defensive depth there with Maruzin, $1.2 million cap hit. Simon Jakobsen, a good defensive defenseman, can also have retained salary there. He's got $7.7 million. And you're looking at a defensive defenseman type guy who should have value come playoffs. So again, if the Islanders are taking a 50 mil cap hit on that, that could be a cheap acquisition for someone. Islanders have a player who you would think they want to build around their captain, Sam Ernst. But if you could pry him away from the Islanders and give up some key assets for them, again, it's a team in the middle, looking more towards the future. You could add that type of player in his prime, 3.6 mil cap hit. Current captain Ernst would be a definite. He's 27th overall pick. He's really developed nicely. Really, one of the surprises from that draft. Not necessarily on the block, but if Islanders get a big offer for him, kind of like what the Oilers are putting out there, you could see Sam Ernst be a key acquisition for one of those playoff teams. All right, let's see if looking at the note. I still have not getting any announcement of any trades. Let's see. I have a post. It looks like maybe another trade has happened. Let's take a look at the web. Again, I have this on my other screen, so you can't see the trades. There is another trade to announce, so another trade coming through as we look at the standings. So just seeing where these two teams are at. Boston Bruins are a team, again, right there on the cusp. They're trying to improve their odds going into the Schaefer Cup playoffs. Tampa's kind of, it's kind of set which teams are making it. Tampa's on the bubble right now, but they would need to get really hot. They're moving one of their key players here. Tampa Bay and Boston have made a trade. It's Tampa Bay is trading Alexander Levinsky, who still has 3 more years left after this at an 8.8 mil cap hit. So it gets Boston that top 6 guy. I mean, Levinsky could definitely be a number 1 center. Good both ends of the ice. Tremendous stamina as well. So he's the type of player, 12th overall pick by Minnesota, who could really be valuable in the playoffs. So Boston's giving up some pieces towards the future in this deal. So let's see if I could find. Let's see, they're giving up defenseman Andrew Levesque in this deal. They're also giving up the rights to Matthew Bowie in this deal. Bowie currently injured. Again, not the best of prospects at 2.5 stars here. Bowie was a 2nd round pick last season. See what kind of injury he's dealing with. Torn groin, he's out for another month or 2, but again, he's still a junior player, so still developing. Injury is going to hamper his junior season, but again, as far as the future goes, Tampa Bay gets the guy that they want. with Bowie, a depth center, and they're also getting a 2038 second round pick from the Bruins, which they have. So the Boston Bruins have traded Andrew Levesque, the rights to Matthew Bowie, and a 2038 second round pick to the Tampa Bay Lightning in exchange for Alexander Lovinetsky. So that's another one of those tricky ones. So that deal has been approved. Trade block is I went through most of that stuff. Let's see, the loggers posted on the trade block. Everybody besides Selby and Ryan are available. Not really available via message for any trade talks. But obviously that's where Milwaukee's at. Milwaukee, again, one of those expansion teams that just came into the league a few years back. Selby was one of those players that was drafted by Jason first overall. He's someone that Milwaukee wants to build around. We already saw them trade Robert Hallberg earlier in the season. They still have Bryce Millicent there. Again, one of those. Again, a lot of people throw up that cap hit of $12 million, but when you think about top line players, especially two ways centers like Bryce Millicent is, you can pay a lot more than that in free agency for a player like that. So with salaries going up the next couple seasons, $12 million is not a bad contract for an elite two-way player like Bryce Millicent, and it looks like Milwaukee is at least willing to move him. Probably not going to be anything that happens before the deadline, it looks like, but definitely in the offseason, a Bryce Millicent trade could happen. Let's see. So we talked about Hayden Ryan is another guy that Buffalo or Milwaukee wants to keep for the future. Hayden Ryan, yeah, looks like a good offensive defenseman. 52 points this season in 66 games. So he's someone on defense on the back end that Milwaukee wants to build around. But other than that, they're again 21 and 42, so they're looking towards the future. They do have they don't have their own number one pick. They have the Kings' first round pick and the Red Wings' first round pick this season. So Milwaukee is looking to restock the cupboards for next season, get some of those young players moved. One of the players I look at Milwaukee that would be valuable come playoff time is Vavro Shaheen. So he's one of those players that I believe was drafted by Summit back in the day. I hyped him up in the draft lottery show as being one of the top prospects. If I remember correctly, he slid down quite a bit in the draft, even though I had him kind of going to the top 10. He went 22nd overall. Again, he's only a 3-star. He's got the $6 million contract. But one of the things that I liked at the time was his defensive play, obviously. This guy could be a big-time penalty killer. He's a playoff-type performer. I think, if I remember correctly, he's coming off a championship in his, I think, Swedish league on his draft year. He had good leadership abilities at the time. He's got those intangibles that can really add to a team come playoff time. Again, you're going to have to deal with them for 3 more years after this. But as far as bottom 6 players go, Vavro Shaheen would be a nice addition to a team. You could probably get him pretty cheap off that rebuilding Milwaukee team. But again, it looks like Milwaukee has kind of closed the doors as far as today's deadline goes. We have, Nordiques, we talked about a little bit earlier. Ed Combs being a player that the Nordiques were looking to trade. Jamie Henry, their goaltender. Again, one of those players that when you look at goaltenders, he's good. I mean, look at him, and I think he's a 4.5 or 5-star player. Jamie Henry's only 26. He's a 4-star, but he still has some potential even. His ratings are very good for a goaltender. Cap hit's not bad for a goaltender, but it's just one of those things where teams just seem to not be heading towards acquiring goaltenders. Henry, I think, would be a good asset for a team to acquire if they needed a number one goalie. Obviously, in Quebec, a team that's been in transition the last couple seasons after a good first couple seasons in the league. So he hasn't really performed that well, but again, that's more indicative of the team in front of him. It doesn't seem like they're getting a lot of interest. The Nordiques have actually said they would retain 50% of him to get that cap hit down to $2.8 million or so. But again, it doesn't seem like people are out there looking to try and pick up goalies for the deadline. We already talked about Krupala. He was already dealt. So there's that. Just looking, San Jose, they're still looking to add. They were one of the most active teams the last week leading up to it. And even if you look earlier in the season with their acquisition of Matt Ruopp from my Sabres, uh, from that point on, the Sharks, who were off to a poor start, have been one of the hottest teams in the league, and they're really focused on Colton Reed taking them to a potential cup run this season even. So in the last week, James, the GM, has acquired a couple goaltenders to give him a couple different, again, trying to throw those darts at the board and see what sticks. Trying to get a couple guys in there, see if one of them can get hot, take this team to the championship. But as of right now, the Sharks score plenty of goals to win games. They're still giving up way too many goals, so that's going to have to be a focus coming into the playoffs. There hasn't been. They seem to be okay with the defense in San Jose. I'd like to see upgraded, but I don't run the team. Again, when you get this close to a cup chance, they acquired Kiviharju earlier in the season. Again, he's going to bring most of the offense to the boards. We talked about the big discussions is around the league is Sawyer Burns PSHL ready? I'm adamant saying no. It doesn't matter what his ratings are. It matters more to me what their game rating is, and it takes time. I mean, this game's smarter than we think, so it takes time for young players to get used to not only producing in a higher league, but it takes time for teams to learn how to win too. I think the Sharks are right there on the cusp of being an elite team, but they have to be there and do that first before they could have a legitimate run. It took my Sabres several years of playoff failures, and then I think a Cup Finals loss to finally get over the top. Back in the day, it's probably been 10 seasons now since I won my Cup, but they got to learn. You got to get there. You got to experience the winning first. Calgary was kind of one of those things that maybe was opposed to that. They didn't really have that huge success, and then we're on the cusp of Cup. San Jose, I think it's going to take a couple seasons of playoffs, and maybe even playoff failures, maybe even a first round exit to get these guys playoff experience, and then they will, whether Burns is too good for the AHL. That's one of the things that you kind of come up on at some point. Is a player too good to be in the AHL? Yes. But if you want to win, should they be in the PSHL now? I think to me, I would have had him developing still in the AHL. Actually, I would never sign him. I would have had him in junior still dominating. But that's something that we've discussed several times. A lot of people have their own opinions on that. It took Colton Reed. Colton Reed got off to a slow start last season, if I remember correctly. He only had a few goals, maybe the first 20 games of the season. It takes time. Young players have to get experience first before they start producing at a high level. So Burns is going to be an elite number one defenseman. I just think if you're that close to a cup, to me, I'd be upgrading this team. So we look at Nadeau. I know that James is adamant on his plus minus. To me, having a 1.5 star, the game kind of looks at star ratings, I think, and records and playoffs and stuff, and they look at those depth stars, and I would plug somebody else in at some point. But again, Cap comes in. Looks like Sharks have about 10 million, and maybe he is talking to acquire a defenseman. I'm not on the inside of the Sharks locker room, but to me, this team is very close to being able to compete. Colton Reed is going to dominate this league for a long time, and he's probably going to win some cups all by himself, anyways. So. When you start moving all your assets, though, you're moving first-round picks really for the next 3 years, moving elite prospects to get Ruopp. You kind of want to go all in when you're doing that, so not be stuck in the middle. So the Sharks are in a difficult spot right now. You look at some of the other trade blocks. There's not a whole bunch by playoff teams. There's the Blackhawks, another team looking at the future. They posted that they are willing to move defensemen like Ty Nelson. Or David Truback for a prospect. I don't know if the Blackhawks are getting a whole lot of inquiries right now. It just seems like a lot of the good teams should be posting a block of what they want to get, but really it just seems like it's the non-playoff teams posting guys that they would like to move, and it doesn't seem like there's any interest. So Seems like Trade Talk may have slowed down a little bit for right now. I think I'm going to proceed a day here. So let's see in the standings. Currently at February 26th. So at the first, I kind of want to stop on the first of the month each month, but I failed to schedule that into the sim schedule. So I have us going to the third, 5 days. And in the middle, I'm going to have to update a couple teams' requests for their monthly finance points distributions. So we're going to sim a day. I just got to remember to stop on the first and make those changes. So good luck to everybody in this sim, and let's advance a day. Luckily, we're not going to be going through any Wednesdays, it looks like, this sim, because Wednesdays are the ones that it takes a long time for whatever reason for this game to advance over a Wednesday. It takes about 5 minutes for the actual sim to advance. So actually, it's taken quite a while for this day too. So I don't know what's holding it up, but we'll see. Those Wednesdays, for whatever reason, in this big file that's 20 seasons into the mix now, it just takes a while for this game to advance past Wednesdays for whatever reason. And I will post the results in the chat. The results for February 26th coming down here. Alright, so if we look at the scores for February 26th, the Florida Panthers, in battle of two of the weaker teams, defeated the Buffalo Sabres. So good loss for my Sabres there as we look towards getting higher draft pick odds in the PSHL draft. The Panthers defeated the Sabres 6-4. Red Wings over the Flyers 6-3. The Anaheim Ducks over that last place Arizona Coyotes team 6-1. Prince George Sawblades, who we saw are active, a lot of those trades haven't gone through yet, so they're still trying to position themselves for the playoffs. They lose in overtime to the Pittsburgh Penguins 2-1. The Kings defeated the defending Schaefer Cup champions 3-2, so nice win there for the Kings. The Columbus Blue Jackets in the shootout defeat Carolina Hurricanes 2-1. Ottawa defeats Milwaukee in overtime 3-2. The Devils went to a shootout to beat the Colorado Avalanche 2-1, and the Minnesota Wild again in overtime over the Washington Capitals 4-3. So I'm gonna go and copy this. And we will advance to the 28th. I appreciate all the notes in the chat from you guys saying that you're enjoying this. I'm glad. Yeah, it's gone a little bit longer than I expected it to, but I had no problems with that. Glad you guys are entertained. Again, hoping in the future maybe I get a little better at this and kind of learn how to stream a little bit better and add some stuff to the streams as well. Again, I'm totally new as far as this goes and streaming and all that stuff. So James is asking, can you do 35% Oh, excuse me. That's my energy drink. Can you do? No, it's 5% intervals. So anything between 5 and 50% can be retained in a deal, as long as your team has the ability to retain that percentage, based on NHL rules as far as percentages of your cap hit or something. I don't even know exactly what it is, but whatever it is in the NHL, it's implemented in the game as well. And we've seen in the past some teams are not able to retain the complete 50%. And I believe it is based on they're only allowed to retain a certain percentage of their actual cap. We also have a development sim coming up here too. So we're about to switch into the 1st of March. So this will also be, so we have a live stream and we also have a development sim here as well. So something else exciting for everyone to check out when they download the file. Check out your prospects and see if any of them had any nice jumps. And maybe that's why this sim's going a little bit slower. It seems like these days advancing are a little bit slower than usual. Maybe it's because we're getting to the end of the month. And it's that time of the month, I guess. I'm not sure if the Sharks played any games yet in those 2 days, but Colton Reed's still sitting on the same 116 points. So I'm assuming they haven't played any games because Ruoff has not moved as well. Unless they got shut out or something, which all hell would break loose then with James if the Sharks got shut out in the game. If you guys make a deal, PM me, because I'm not really looking at the chats anymore. It looks like another trade has gone through, so I'm going to go over the scores here real quick, and then I will go to the trades page. It looks like the Oilers and Kings have made a trade, so trade still. I set 2 p.m. as a deadline, but kind of like the NHL does, trades just kind of slip through after hours, and whether they take that much time to use a fax machine to send to the NHL offices or whatever it is. But yeah, thanks Clayton for that update. The Kings and Oilers have made a trade. We'll get to that in just a second. Let's go ahead, and I'm trying to keep an eye. Things have changed, since we're only at 5-day sims now instead of the 7 days. Waivers kind of happen in the middle of sims, so I'm keeping an eye on and see if any of those. There's several waiver claims that are being processed. Just want to see if any of those go through. I just want to have first-hand knowledge of when those go through. That's something I'm going to change in the off season. We're kind of at a point I can talk to you guys about a couple changes that are coming in the off season. Thinking of lowering that, or at least changing the waiver time to maybe 10 days. So that's 2 sims. Right now it's set at 14, or actually it might be 15. I'm not exactly sure. It was set to 2 full sims, but the sims were 7-day sims. So now we're moved to mostly 5-day sims. Obviously the ones when we get to the end of the month, the first of the month, we got to stop on the first, so those sim days change. That's just kind of something that always happens, though. Changing the waiver time to be more set with the standard 2 sim period. Another thing we're going to implement, and again, it's something I need to work on, but it's something that's been on my radar for a while. It's something that needs to be done. Goaltender injuries. So the game, for whatever reason, unless this changes in FHM 11, goaltender injuries are really non-existent. Even when a goalie gets hurt, it's minimal time. There's been a lot of discussion in this show about goaltenders. I think there needs to be more serious injuries to goaltenders. So you don't see an injury where a goalie's out even a week in this league. It's a few days. Basically, they usually even stay at 100% day to day. But there needs to be serious injuries for goaltenders. It happens in real life. Goaltenders pull a muscle, injure a knee, whatever. We're going to have some kind of lottery in place that anytime a goaltender gets a short-term day-to-day injury, we're going to run a lottery to see how long that injury actually is going to happen in real life. So that's something that's going to be, and again, I'll take feedback on this, how to best implement it, but we are going to have more long-term injuries to goaltenders. It's just more realistic that way. So it'll change things as far as depth goes. A lot of teams don't want to run with more than 4 goalies in their organization, which is really the minimum. But now they'll force you maybe to have 5 or 6 on hand, or at least sign one if an key injury takes place. But teams are pretty good as far as there's not just a number one and then a crappy number two. Most teams have 2 solid goalies in place already, so that's just something that's going to happen in the off season. We'll go over the scores from last day now. The Quebec Nordiques beat those Prince George Sawblades 3-1. Sawblades, they needed that one against a team that's out of the playoff race, but they couldn't come through in the back-to-back situation. The Nordiques beat the Sawblades 3-1. Islanders beat those Lightning 6-2. The Blues defeat the Blackhawks 2-1. Minnesota Wild with the big win over the Flyers 3-1. Jets 5, Red Wings 1. Canadiens with the big key matchup against their rival Ottawa Senators beat them 4-3. The Carolina Hurricanes defeat Nashville Predators 4-2. And in a shootout, the Colorado Avalanche with the big third period with 3 goals defeat Seattle 4-3. Okay, so let's go through the trade that just went on. Looks like there may be a second trade coming through here by the Kings. Let's take a look. There is 2 trades now. So the Kings are all of a sudden active. All that talk about the John Carveth situation, and Clayton has decided he wants to go all out for it. So a couple trades here. The first trade with the Edmonton Oilers, we already spoke about that. I mentioned that the 2 teams had made an agreement. This is the Kings trading their 2038 third-round pick. It's Tampa Bay's third-round pick, sorry, in 2038 to what looks like is a rental here. William Soderberg. So William Soderberg is a young 25-year-old forward. Give the Kings some depth, being moved for a third-round pick. So the Kings acquire William Soderberg from the Oilers for the Tampa Bay Lightning 2038 third-round pick. The next trade is a little bit bigger, so it's one of the names that we talked about earlier in the show. It's the Quebec Nordiques and goaltender Jamie Henry. So there have been rumors that the Nordiques wanted to move Henry. Henry's a good goalie. It's not like they wanted to move him. It just doesn't fit in with a team that's not a playoff team. Henry's more valuable elsewhere. It looks like they have come to agreement with the Los Angeles Kings to trade Jamie Henry to the Kings. Let me just go ahead and confirm. No trade drop. That no trade clauses are in effect here or anything. See, Jamie Henry is traded from Quebec to Los Angeles. In exchange, the Kings are sending the 2039 Winnipeg second-round pick. So that's next year's draft, so they have that pick. And they're also trading goaltender Tanner Albrecht. So Albrecht and the second-round pick in 2039 to the Nordiques for Jamie Henry. So there's 2 more deals coming down the line here. And we'll look at moving another day. So this will get us to the first of the month, and we'll have to have a short pause while I update some of those settings for teams. I haven't seen any further trade block posts, so maybe trades kind of dwindling down here as we get to the deadline. Blue Jackets with an injury here. Lindholm injury. So we're going to replace him with Kirk Rude. And Kirk Rude would move to 4th line. Oh, I was hoping that San Jose popped up with an injury there. But of course they haven't played yet, I don't think. But there's some discussion going around about injuries being playable in the playoffs because people battle through injuries in real life in the playoffs. I'm not 100% sure if, since we're on 10, it's supposed to be able to defer injuries. I'm not sure if this league has it because we started in 6. I know PSHL 2, I'm pretty sure that there is the ability to defer injuries till later in the season in PSHL 2. I'm not 100% sure if you could do that in PSHL 1. But again, that's not something that's going to be changing anytime soon. It is what it is. You get an injury, the player's just out. You just have to learn to live with it. It's part of life. Players are out. Um, I think there's day-to-day injuries that happen in this game that are just like in real life where people could play. That's up to you if you want to play a player that's day-to-day. But if they're out long term, they're going to be out. So that's just not for discussion. If you guys know whether or not the injuries are deferrable in PSHL or not, you could go ahead and post. I'm not 100% sure. Again, my team hasn't made the playoffs, so I haven't had any situations where that would be an issue lately. So maybe you guys know. This will take a minute. We're going to the first of the month. Anytime it gets to the end of the month, it takes the game a little longer to transition for whatever reason to the first. So in the meantime, I kind of just take a look at the standings, see if anything changes. As right now, it's still looking at same teams. I mean, we have a good battle for first in the Atlantic with Toronto and Montreal now right on the doorstep of Toronto, who's basically been in first most of the season. Montreal is right there. Again, Montreal is one of those teams that's been quiet this season. I think GM Patrick's just busy with other endeavors and stuff and doesn't have the time he used to have in PSHL. But doesn't mean that he's not paying attention to his team and maybe not actively trading or actively making podcasts like he had in the past. But obviously he still cares about his team and he still does what he can to make that team as good as possible. Montreal always seems to be near the top of the Atlantic Division year in and year out. They're right there again. The Metro, I heard rumors that the Rangers were close to acquiring a defenseman. I haven't seen that trade come through yet. So we'll see if that fell through or not. But the Rangers have a solid 6-point lead over the Flyers in the Metro. Again, in the Central, it's close. You're talking 84 and 82 points, Avalanche and Blues. So again, I mean, even when you have teams like the Jets not too far behind, with a couple games at hand, they could jump in there too. Jets, another one of those good rosters. They could jump in there if they get hot. We still have basically 15 games left for most teams, somewhere around there. So a lot could change in those 15 games. We have Calgary, the defending Schaefer Cup champs, leading the Pacific, but those Kings and Sharks, two teams again. Talked about the Sharks making their additions the week coming up to this, and the Kings today being active to improve. So that's going to be a big three-headed race down the stretch. Obviously, seeding is going to be important there. Whoever finishes second or third in that division is not going to want to go up against each other. But as of right now, it'd be Calgary leading the division, and the Kings and Sharks would have to play in the first round, and that could be a bloodbath. So we'll have to see how that plays out down the stretch. Again, there's not a whole lot. This is the first year I remember that it's been this obvious, even as far back as the trade deadline, what teams are making it and what teams aren't. There's just not a lot of questions right now as far as playoff teams. And I can't remember a season that's been like this ever in PSHL. It's clear which teams are making it, which teams aren't. So again, you have Prince George is the only real question mark right now. So again, that big loss they just had on the 27th of February hurt them a little bit. They're still technically in the 8th seed, but they're only 2 points ahead of Minnesota, who has a game at hand. So that was a big loss. Minnesota and Winnipeg are both just 76 points. So one of those teams is going to take third in the Pacific and be locked in to play the second place team. The other team is going to be a wild card spot. So it looks like that's really the only question mark in the PSHL standings right now. Obviously, seeding is going to be important. There's a lot of battles going on as far as seeds go. It looks like the 2-3 teams in each division is, except for the Atlantic, that's kind of a 7-point difference there. But I mean, look at the Metro, Flyers, and Devils, both 87 points. That's going to be a battle for home ice. Washington's right there. Obviously, they've made some moves this season to better their chances in the playoffs. So they can move into one of those slots too and get out of the wild card and into battling one of those division spots. So still a lot of question marks, still a lot of tight battles, except for there's just a lot of question marks of who's going to make it and who's going to miss. So, like I said, we would have thought that would have made an active trade deadline, and it has been active. Don't get me wrong. There's been about 10 or 11 trades so far today, and there was 6 or 7 yesterday, I think, or at least no, maybe not that many. Maybe there was only a few last yesterday, but there's plenty of trades. But I would have thought there would have been more trades with teams going all in for a cup chance and teams just blowing it up for next year. But hasn't really happened too much. It looks like James is stating that his team lost. So according to the standings, he may see his team losing here. I haven't seen the scores yet. So if the Sharks did lose to Florida, that's going to be a key devastating loss to them. It does look like the Sharks played because Ruoff got a point. Reed didn't get anything, so that's an interesting loss for San Jose there. So that's not going to be good for them. Again, maybe that'll wake them up to make another trade. Looks like we have one more trade coming through, and this is a big one. So, and this does involve those aforementioned San Jose Sharks. So, Sharks kind of taking some of my advice I've been giving them and upgrading the defense. We'll get to that in a moment. So, San Jose Sharks are making a big splash with the Edmonton Oilers here coming up. So, yeah, I don't want to try to convince too many people to do certain things because you guys have your own way of doing things, and you guys are a great bunch of people that know what the heck they're doing. You don't need any hand holding, but just certain things I see that I would do that I kind of bring up to people. So it looks like Philip Kendish is moving again, claimed off waivers by the Nashville Predators. I know he had multiple claims on him. I'm going to go through them real quick just to make sure. I see another waiver claim here. I have to process this one. Might be too late now. It's not have that when they started. So yeah, Kendish off of waivers. He was claimed by Minnesota. Minnesota did not have the roster space to keep him. He was put back on waivers, and Nashville has now claimed Philip Kendish. Let's see here. There's another claim to process here. I don't know if there's a deal in place for this, but Ottawa is making a claim on Nathan Caron. So I know that James threw it out there for someone to claim him. He give up some compensation, so hopefully that's a deal that you guys are working behind the scenes. But Ottawa has placed a claim on Nathan Caron. Alright, so the scores today. Again, we're on the first. I gotta try and remember to update. Again, I kind of lost him in the chat too. All the moving back and forth. I know there's multiple teams that had requests for the first. I'll have to try and go through those. Looks like James is going to be solid on his word. Oh, now he's saying he changed his mind. Oh, that's kind of a dickish thing to do there, James. You got to give up that pick, man. Alright, so go through the scoreboard here for yesterday, or would be February 28th. San Jose Sharks did lose to the Florida Panthers 3-2. The Arizona Coyotes get off the schneid and get a big win against the Schaefer Cup champions. So this is a weird day. San Jose losing to Florida. Arizona shutting out the Schaefer Cup champs 2-0. And then the Seattle Kraken defeat the Blue Jackets. They give up 3 third-period goals, but win in the shootout 4-3. All right, so now I'm just going to have a minute of dead air here as I go through and try to update the few requests we have for financial changes here. It's the first of the month. It's the only time we're able to change the finances. Slight change there. I think San Jose had one. Whoops. I don't know. He told me that he wants to remain the same. I don't. You don't need to tell me if it's remaining the same, guys. Just need to know the changes here. Let's see. Who was the other team? I thought there was one more team that made a change, but it's gotten buried. Let's see here. Just give me a minute. I gotta try and find this. I'm pretty sure there was another team with a request. Just a reminder, when you guys make trades, you don't have to post the trade in your team channel. Just a simple message saying that there's a trade for me to approve. Sometimes when you post the actual trade on there, other stuff just gets buried, and I'm not able to find stuff to your team channel. So just a notification that trade's been made is good enough. You don't need to post the exact trade. Where is that other one at? I don't seem to find it. Oh, here's one. The Devils made a change. If there's another one that requested change, I apologize. Again, stuff just got buried with all the trades going on. Next month it should be cleaner again. We're not stopping on the first next month either. In case I might just make a verbal change. I'm not just change the sim schedule on the site. Just stop on the first. It just makes more sense to just run a shorter sim and then a longer sim the next day to get the stop on the first for you guys to edit this stuff yourselves. A lot of times people don't edit things anyways, but you want to give them the opportunity to do it if they want to. This is scouting. Alright, so I think that's it. We're going to advance. We're going to go over the couple trades that have happened. I'm going to save this game while it's saving. I'm going to go over the trades. It looks like there's one more deal. It's a big one, like I said. Wait for this game to save up. Just want to take a moment while this is saving. Just again, thanks for everyone for tuning in for this. Any feedback's great. Any kind of advice on how to do this better would be great. Want to try and do this as much as possible. My work schedule is crazy. Working 2 jobs. I don't have a whole lot of extra time to do this for you guys, but especially when we end important things on weekends and stuff, I'd like to try and implement more live streaming there to get the word out about PSHL a little bit more into the world. Again, the PSHL portal, its first season since we implemented that, I think it's doing wonders for the league. It's getting a lot of exposure out there. There's not any other website portals like this for FHM. So I appreciate all the feedback you guys have given me on the site. I like it. I still get a lot of errors on the site. I see it on the back end. If you guys see something that's just not right on the site, just bring it to my attention. At some point, I'm going to try and clean up all the errors so that they stop. You might not even see it on your side, but I see it in the coding. I see an error come through. So if you see something that looks weird, let me know. I just know that sometimes if you get to certain pages from areas you're not supposed to be getting to it from, it will throw an error or maybe it'll. A lot of times I see it'll show the Montreal Canadiens because they're Team Zero or whatever. It'll show their roster when it's supposed to be showing something else. So if you see something like that, just let me know. Again, I've seen a lot of stuff. I'm trying to fix the coding as I go. So uh, this most recent trade here with Edmonton Oilers and San Jose Sharks. So one of the big names we talked about already in this trade deadline show, Edmonton Oilers looking to move that key asset, Jack Marshall, who would be a huge acquisition for any playoff-bound team. Marshall's going to instantly give that defensive shutdown physical edge that's so important in playoffs. The San Jose Sharks have gone out there and acquired Jack Marshall. And the San Jose Sharks are giving up quite a bit for him. So let's see, look at the package here from the Sharks. They're going to give up Grebnicek is one of the players they're going to give up. And they're going to give up Michael Gagne, young defensive prospect. They're also giving their 2040 first-round pick. We already talked about the 2040 draft being a deeper draft. Sharks immediately went and put that out on the block to try and use the leverage of that announcement as far as trade goes. So they're giving that 2040 first-round pick, and they're also giving up Washington's 2038 third-round pick. So it's Jack Marshall to the Sharks with 35% salary retention. I didn't mention that. So 35% of his salary for the next 2 years are retained in exchange for Michael Gagne, Michael Grebnicek, a 2040 first-round pick, and a 2038 third-round pick. So the Sharks go out and get that big defenseman that they need to put them over the top. And I'm loving the How I Met Your Mother gifts that you guys are posting there. This is my favorite show of all time, and you guys are nailing it today. So looks like James took my advice on Grebnicek being a one-sided offensive defenseman and went out and got a good two-way guy in Jack Marshall. So it looks like everything is set now to advance to the next day. Ooh, Blackhawks injury here to David Truback. So Truback will be replaced here. Let's see who's next on their list. Lizotte. Okay, so here's some more budget issues. This is what I get when people don't edit their finances when they're that close to being at zero. I have to go in, I have to log in as your team, and then I cannot advance. This guy's got it all maxed out, so we need to, and I'll start with like the least valuable, game promotions. I'll get that down to 0. Scouting's already at 0, so now we'll lower team morale until they get into a positive range. So we'll be right there. And again, they're going to probably be negative again next month, and I'll have to go down even more. So something to keep in mind when you guys set your yearly finances. You've got to have some wiggle room in here. You can't just be setting all your points to get to 0 just because you have points to disperse. Monthly, you still have to factor those in too, and you have to factor in the time when your team's not playing any games and you're not earning any points. So you got to have some wiggle room there. So you don't want to be paying with zeros on your team morale and all that stuff. And it looks like another team, the Islanders, also need to be reduced. So we will start here, get them to 0. Nope, 0. So they're going to be zeroed out on everything. Now since you're on, you can still be negative if you're zeroed out on everything, then it'll let me advance, but yeah, I know that we didn't stop on the first, so you guys couldn't make these changes, but these should have been adjusted a while ago when you guys are that low. And now we could advance. I haven't seen any more trade blocks posted. Nothing more in the channels. It looks like maybe trade talk has slowed down. Again, if you guys are working on something, go ahead and message me. But I'm about to pull the plug on this trade deadline if I don't hear differently from you guys in the near future. As soon as I get this sim completed, while I input these trades, it's going to take me a while. I'm just going to stop the stream at that point to do that. Looks like Colton Reed added a couple more points to get over the 51 goal plateau and 118 points. So, did the Sharks pull a win here? It doesn't look like they won here, though. It looks like the points are the same. Did they lose again? I'm getting a message that another trade is still in the works. So, we'll see if that comes through in the next few minutes. And there's the Senators' claim of Nathan Caron going official there. So maybe we'll see a trade posted for a 6th round pick going to Ottawa. Alright, so for March 1st, Tampa Bay in overtime beats the Penguins 2-1. Minnesota Wild beat the San Jose Sharks 6-4. So another loss to a team that's out of the playoffs. So a couple bad losses for the Sharks. Prince George, another bad loss for them too, giving up 5 third-period goals to the Carolina Hurricanes as the Hurricanes beat the Salt Lake 6-3. The Flames rebound with a 5-0 shutout performance over Nashville. The Devils beat my Sabres, thank you very much, 3-1. The Blackhawks defeat the Vegas Golden Knights 3-1. And the Colorado Avalanche over the Quebec Nordiques 6-3. So that would be day 4. Let's see if that trade I'm hearing. I didn't approve the ones on the site already, so I gotta post that one. All these have been talked about and discussed in game. Haven't seen anything else come through the trades yet. Like I said, I got a message that one is coming in the works, but I don't see nothing yet. So. We'll see what that trade is. We'll see if it's one of those trades that's going to be one of those last-minute blockbuster deals. Sometimes see in the NHL, just one of those kind of space yourself to where you make that splash at the last second, and you don't have any other your rivals to counter your trade because it comes in so late. So don't see that a lot in this league, but it's not a bad piece of advice. If someone wants to go do that, make a big splash, and not give anyone else time to counter, that's almost like making 2 trades in one. So we're at the last day of simming here. I like to look at myself in the standings. I like to see where I'm positioned as far as chances of getting that first overall pick, or at least improving my draft odds. It looks like right now Arizona's still sitting with those best chances. Again, they don't own their pick, but whoever owns the Arizona pick, Arizona's still with 43 points. Milwaukee 46 points, and then there is a logjam. 54 for Nashville, 55 Seattle, 55 Buffalo, 55 Florida, 56 Edmonton, and 57 even Columbus, and 58 Chicago if you want to even go that much deeper. So at the top of the draft lottery percentages, a lot of teams battling to try and get that worst record in the league still. Okay, so I'm getting a message that maybe the trade has been approved. It is on the site, and it does look like a decent sized trade. So let's take a look real quick at this, because this is probably the last one that's coming through, I would think. Ottawa, again, with that, trying to position themselves for the playoffs here, has made a trade with Nashville. It looks like there's some pretty good assets going to Nashville in this one. So this has the Predators sending David Johansson, if we could find him. David Johansson, talk about a 4-star 27-year-old player. So this is definitely a top 6 type player. David Johansson and a 2038 Nashville 5th round pick thrown in there. which they own, to the Ottawa Senators. This also has Johansson being 50% retained, which they could do. So David Johansson at 50% salary retention and a 23 fifth round pick going to Ottawa and coming back the other way to Nashville is Seth Berhalter. If I remember correctly, that was a second round pick. I thought he was maybe a first round pick. So Berhalter, a former second round pick, gritty, physical power forward type guy. He's one of those guys, he might be a 3-star, but he's going to play a bigger role than a 3-star player. He goes to Nashville, again, 24-year-old, somewhat Nashville looking towards the future. Berhalter gives them a nice asset going forward. They also acquire Ottawa's 2038 fourth round pick. So Ottawa giving up some future assets as well as the 2039 first round pick. So Ottawa right now is in the mix for a playoff spot, but who knows what next year brings. So that 2039 Ottawa first round pick and Seth Berhalter, pretty good pull for David Johansson. So both teams kind of get what they want. David Johansson moves to Ottawa in exchange for Seth Berhalter and a first round pick. So basically that's the main pieces of that trade. So good trade for both teams. Again, that's one of those trades you look at a team on the cusp of a playoff spot, looking to improve their roster and giving up some solid assets to a rebuilding team moving forward. So good trade by both those teams. That will be on the approved list. Again, this is the last day of simming. I haven't got any further notifications that any trades are coming down. So we're going to sim the last day of the sim here. Ooh, I hope Ottawa's focused in on the cap situation because they're over the cap again here. Again, the Giesbrecht deal has not gone through here. So that obviously will help. Someone has to be waived, or this player here could be sent down. They actually have a couple players that could be sent down. But they're also $3 million over the cap here. So the Nathan Caron claim is the one that's putting them over the top. So he may have to be re-waived again, it looks like. Yeah, because they're still over the cap right now. So Caron will have to go back through waivers again. So that makes things. He's still off San Jose, so he really should give him a 6th round pick still. But hoping that those Ottawa trades that they made is going to put them over the cap again. I know that there's 50% retention in the Johansson deal. I know that Giesbrecht was traded to me, so hopefully that will get them back under the cap. Yeah, I mean, James, you can claim him back. I mean, whether you'd want to or not is a question mark with all your goalies in your system right now. But another big injury here to Philadelphia, losing Otto Wallin. Let's see how serious this is. We haven't had a lot of injuries this sim. Kind of, it's not too bad. 1 to 2 weeks. Philadelphia is a playoff team. They're going to want Wallin in the lineup. He's going to be replaced right now by Lugubov. So it's the top 4 defensemen going out with Wallin. Bridges moves up. Would have liked to see some big, serious injuries this sim while we were simming live. You know, it would have been nice to see. It would have been really nice to see Colton Reed get injured long term. Well, as I speak of injuries, here's another one. Prince George. It doesn't look like a key player. Cam Evan, the 6'6" forward. He's going to be out 2 to 3 weeks. So that's, Prince George is trying to battle to make the playoffs. That's going to be a big loss for them. A couple players who they had on the block will now have to get ice time. Makhaganov will replace him. Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's certain things with the new sim schedule. Those waiver claims sometimes come in before the end of the sim, and if you have a game, it kind of puts you in a tough spot. So just one of those things. Remember, if you're placing a claim on someone, you want to have the roster space and spot. You got to be under the players limit too. as well as have the cap space for that player just in case that or that waiver claim comes in before the end of the sim. So let's see. So see if we could advance now, or is there another injury here? Let's see. Vegas losing Livingston. So luckily they have 3 forwards sitting. We'll put the one with the most value in Bailey. Livingston was a top line left wing, so that's going to hurt them in their quest for a playoff spot. Bailey, hold on, gotta focus here. Brady, Calshon, the former Saver, and Harbeck. Alright, so Livingston injured. This again just a 1 to 2 week type of deal, so nothing serious this sim. A couple minor injuries, and now we could advance. We're coming up on about 2 hours for the sim, guys. So again, thanks everyone to tune in. I posted this on the Facebook page that was newly created. I hope a couple of my old GMs were able to watch this and kind of see what the league's all about now. I'd like to get those guys back in the league at some point. I know we have Frank already added to our chat, checking things out as he's or at least interested in moving to FHM. So we'll see if we could get him into the league at some point. Hopefully this helps out to try and give everyone an idea of, first off, the fictional players that are now part of this league, being in the 2038 season. A lot of these players are now fictional. So it's getting familiar with the names throughout the league. And getting familiar with FHM, which is a huge upgrade from STHS, what we used to use. So a lot of those STHS guys are kind of stuck in that league and that world and haven't really jumped to FHM yet. FHM hasn't got to where I think they can be, but they've made steady improvements over the last 5 years in the game, so to where we could at least put on a really exciting league now. So let's see. So let's go over the scores again for the last day of the sim as we wrap things up for the 2038 PSHL trade deadline show. My freaking Sabres let me down and get a win there, it looks like. Montreal defeated their rival Ottawa again 2-1. Anaheim Ducks in overtime defeat the Loggers 2-1. As mentioned, my Sabres defeat the first place Maple Leafs, so they can't win any game, but they can beat the first place team 4-3. Philadelphia defeats Boston 7-4. Detroit with the win over Tampa Bay 7-4. Dallas in the shootout over Prince George. So Prince George had a rough sim here. Active in the trade front. But again, none of those trades have been processed yet. But still, you would like some better results leading into the trades being updated. Rangers with a 3-0 win over the Islanders. Vegas Golden Knights down that top line left wing. No problem though, as they beat Seattle 6-4. Capitals over the Predators 6-3. Florida Panthers with the shootout victory over the Winnipeg Jets 3-2. Avalanche defeat the Blue Jackets 4-3. Penguins over the LA Kings 3-1, and then a big win for the New Jersey Devils with blowout fashion over the Chicago Blackhawks 8-4. So again, thank you everybody for tuning in. Then feedback is welcome, and let me know how to improve this show for the future. Again, we'll be streaming again. Who knows if we'll stream for the playoffs? I'd like to get a stream going for the playoffs as well, at least maybe on the weekends. And then, of course, the draft lottery show will also be streamed live. And we will also do the cap lottery show as well at that same time. So we'll set the cap, see if it goes up or down. Last year it went up 1.5 million, so we'll see where it goes this year, or at least leading up to next year. So thank you again, and we will talk to you guys next time. Bye for now.